Jungkook shocked. Band Si-Hyuk reportedly says Jimin is the only one he cannot control. What's really going on behind HYBE's curtain? He's the only one I can't control. That one sentence, spoken not from a press conference podium, not behind the confidence of a company statement, but allegedly from a private, unguarded moment, has ignited what might be the most serious internal reckoning in the history of HYBE. The man who built BTS from a basement practice room to a billion-dollar empire is rumored to have confessed a deeply unsettling truth. The subject? Not the outspoken Suga, not the visionary RM, not even the explosive solo force that is Jungkook, but Jimin, the soft-spoken, graceful, angel-voiced performer often characterized by humility and warmth. Why Jimin? And more importantly, what does it mean for the very system that forged him? Sources close to the scene describe the moment as anything but staged. No cameras, no stage lights. A quiet, late-night gathering at an elite Jeju estate known among insiders for hosting HYBE's highest-level discussions. The kind of place where NDAs are signed before drinks are poured. Witnesses, anonymous but long embedded in HYBE's operations, claim Bang Si-Hyuk was unusually candid. The sentence he allegedly spoke now circulates like a cipher. He's the only one I can't control. That alone would be enough to jolt the K-pop ecosystem. But the real question isn't whether Bang Si-Hyuk uttered those words. It's why. Beneath the polished smiles and well-choreographed brand of BTS lies a system as intricately controlled as a Swiss watch. Every move, every word, every pause measured. Freedom, in this world, is mostly performance. For most idols, that's a price willingly paid. But what happens when one member decides the cost is too high? Whispers within HYBE suggest Jimin has never truly conformed, not fully, not blindly. Observers point to a trail of subtle defiance. A live stream cut abruptly when a fan question hit too close to a forbidden topic. A cryptic post uploaded without explanation, black and white, void of emotion, unfiltered by corporate approval. Lyrics in Set Me Free PT2 that felt less like poetry and more like confession. Sometimes you can't say things out loud, but music lets you bleed silently, he said in one interview. Was it merely artistic metaphor or a deliberate cry from within the machine? Even Bang's alleged comment wasn't delivered with frustration. According to those present, it came with equal parts fatigue and admiration, perhaps even a trace of envy. Because in a system designed for compliance, what threatens it most isn't rebellion. It's a mind that cannot be manipulated, a soul that refuses to break. Jimin has never screamed resistance. He doesn't need to. Those who understand HYBE's power structure know the quiet ones are the hardest to manage. And Jimin, beneath the velvet voice and pristine stage presence, may be far more strategic than the public realizes. This isn't the first time Jimin has subtly challenged the boundaries. Veteran fans, particularly those who followed BTS from pre-debut, have long noticed a different frequency in him. He moves within the rules, but never seems consumed by them. He plays the part, but he never appears fully possessed by the machine. And therein lies the danger for HYBE, because Jimin doesn't rebel through noise. He rebels through precision. His solo debut album Face was proof. While other members embraced elaborate comeback formats, variety shows, synchronized PR, meticulously prepped performances, Jimin reportedly demanded a stripped-down release. No glittering distractions, just raw art. He rejected certain choreography-heavy concepts. He questioned standard promotional routes. He fought, gently but firmly, for minimalism. He won. Insiders say the process wasn't smooth. Tensions ran high behind closed doors. Concept disagreements. Deliberations over singles. Internal debates about whether his lead track should even be his lead track. But Jimin, once perceived as the quiet one, had evolved into someone who wouldn't yield. He doesn't confront loudly, said one former HYBE creative executive. But when he believes in something, he becomes immovable. You can't lure him with numbers. You can't threaten him with projections. It terrifies a system built on obedience. The emotional intelligence Jimin wields is unlike anything HYBE anticipated. And that may be the real story here. Not a power struggle between artist and label, but a quiet dismantling of the illusion of total control. Bang Si-Hyuk's alleged remark is now seen less as an admission of failure and more as an exposure of truth. Control, after all, is an illusion, especially in the presence of someone who refuses to trade their authenticity for IT. In a world where idols are shaped, sculpted, and staged, Jimin stands out not because he resists the system outright, but because he never lets it define him entirely. And HYBE, despite its reach, may have underestimated that. The tension reportedly escalated during BTS's military hiatus. With group activities paused, individual projects surfaced. Fans expected standard rollouts. But Jimin's face shook those assumptions. The music video for his lead single wasn't just emotionally raw, it was haunted. This wasn't an idol selling a song. This was a man unraveling on his terms. The imagery was unapologetic. Broken mirrors, isolation, desperation. Not symbolic suffering. Real. Uncomfortable. Intimate. Bang Si-Hyuk's praise of the album was public. But behind the scenes, sources indicate friction. Jimin had reportedly overridden multiple suggestions from HYBE's creative teams. He refused typical exposure circuits. He removed rehearsed moments and inserted silence. He wanted the audience to feel, not consume. And that, in itself, was radical. This raises another unsettling question. If Bang Si-Hyuk couldn't control Jimin, what does that imply about BTS's future? The group's reunion, scheduled for 2025 after military enlistment concludes, looms large. But the dynamics have shifted, not just due to time apart, but because the members, Jimin especially, have evolved. Once a unit moving as one, they are now individuals with distinct artistic agendas. The idea of returning to normal might be an illusion. Jungkook, reportedly caught off guard by the rumors surrounding Bang's statement, has remained silent. But fans have noted subtle changes in his interactions with Jimin, less playful, more observant. During recent appearances, Jimin's presence is felt distant, polite, professional, but never fully present. Even his smiles seem rehearsed, his eyes measured. This isn't disengagement. It's strategic detachment. Industry veterans are watching closely, not just for the music, but for what Jimin's trajectory could signal to the rest of K-pop. An idol who transcends the rules without burning the bridge. An artist who forces an empire to bend. If HYBE can't control him, can anyone? Bang's rumored confession wasn't loud. It wasn't made for the press. But that makes it even more dangerous. It wasn't meant to shape perception, it was perception cracking. And now, as those 7 words echo across online forums and fan circles, they leave behind only questions. Is Jimin resisting HYBE's control? Or has he outgrown it entirely? Has the man once seen as the group's gentlest member become its most uncontainable force? And if the system fails to control its most emotionally intelligent artist, how long before it fails to control anything at all? Jimin's silence speaks louder than any statement. His steps are calculated, his pauses intentional. He doesn't scream rebellion. He embodies it, not by walking away, but by walking differently. In a space that was never designed for individuality, Jimin quietly becomes indivisible. As 2025 approaches, all eyes are on BTS's return. But some are watching more closely, watching one member whose narrative has shifted beneath the surface. Watching to see whether Jimin will fall back in line, or whether the line will move to follow him. If what Bang said is true, if he's the only one I can't control, is more than offhand lament, then we are no longer witnessing an idol's evolution. We are witnessing a quiet insurrection, and the industry may never be the same. The claim that Bang Si-Hyuk, founder of HYBE and the architect behind the global ascent of BTS, allegedly stated, "He's the only one I can't control," referring to Jimin, has triggered an avalanche of speculation, analysis, and concern. While the remark was not made publicly nor verified through any official channel, its circulation has been enough to rupture the fabric of what many believe to be an unshakable internal structure within the world's most powerful K-pop conglomerate. But now, the question that demands deeper reflection is not simply whether Bang said it, but whether we, as consumers of this narrative, are willing to accept it as truth without question. Are we too eager to believe? We must confront an unsettling but necessary possibility. Could this entire narrative be a construction, a deliberate orchestration of controversy designed to provoke, attract, and captivate? The timing, the tone, the viral trajectory, each element invites a critical reassessment of our own interpretive choices. Is this a revelation of truth from behind tightly closed corporate doors? Or is it a spectacle built upon our psychological need for scandal and disruption? The sources behind this supposed confession remain unnamed. They are presented as insiders, observers, anonymous informants. The platforms where these claims gain momentum, TikTok, YouTube commentary, unverified Twitter threads, and various secondary media outlets, are not traditionally recognized for investigative rigor. While they often serve as catalysts for popular discourse, they lack the structural accountability of verified journalistic institutions. This discrepancy should immediately raise alarm. Are we equating virality with validity? And if so, what does that reveal about the current state of media consumption, especially within fan-driven digital ecosystems where sentiment can quickly replace evidence? It is crucial to acknowledge that even the most emotionally compelling narrative can be false. A story's ability to captivate does not necessarily validate its authenticity. The phenomenon we are witnessing may not be a factual disclosure, but rather a symbolic manifestation of deeper tensions perceived by fans. And herein lies the danger. When speculation is repeatedly consumed as reality, it begins to shape public perception more powerfully than truth ever could. Why has this specific narrative taken root so easily? It aligns with a familiar archetype, one that paints Jimin not as an idol merely shaped by the industry, but as a figure who resists it from within. It feeds the collective yearning for complexity, for rebellion, for the lone individual who defies institutional control. The allure is undeniable. But is it real? Skepticism must now become our primary tool. If we accept this story without interrogation, we risk not only being manipulated by sensationalism, but also distorting the very subject we claim to admire. What if Jimin's silence is not strategic resistance, but simply the preservation of personal boundaries? What if Bang Si-Hyuk's rumored words are either misinterpreted or entirely fabricated? And perhaps more disturbingly, what if this entire discourse serves only to deepen divisions, both within the fandom and between artist and audience? How many times in the history of celebrity culture have we witnessed private moments reimagined into public myths? Are we, perhaps unconsciously, contributing to a cycle in which the truth becomes less relevant than the emotional impact of a compelling narrative? Moreover, the question of control, who possesses it, who resists it, who is subject to it, cannot be explored without acknowledging the massive machinery behind the scenes. HYBE is not simply a company. It is an industrialized system of narrative production, branding, and public manipulation. Within such a system, every whisper, every deviation, every moment of apparent vulnerability is scrutinized for profit potential. Are we sure this leak was unintended? Or is it possible that the myth of uncontrollable Jimin benefits more than just the gossip circuits? It is time to evaluate not just the subject, but the structure of the story. What is the cost of believing? Once again, we urge readers to remember that this article, like much of what circulates in the K-pop sphere, is built on fragments, comments pulled from unverifiable sources, observations reinterpreted through fan theory, and conclusions drawn from circumstantial evidence. Despite the elegance of the narrative, The lack of direct confirmation should be the first point of critical concern. Have we lost the ability to distinguish between storytelling and journalism? Are we replacing news with dramatization simply because it feels more satisfying? These are not rhetorical questions. They demand contemplation because they determine the ethical framework within which we consume, interpret, and distribute information. Jimin's career, indeed his humanity, should not be the canvas upon which we project our assumptions. If he is truly navigating complex power dynamics, then his silence deserves respect, not invasion. If, on the other hand, this is an illusion crafted for attention, then we must confront the reality that we have become complicit in its dissemination. To proceed responsibly, we must ask ourselves, what do we want to be true and why? Whose voice is actually speaking and to what end? Who benefits from our belief and who suffers? Is the narrative of Jimin's defiance a cry for help or an echo chamber of our own projections? In the coming weeks, as discussions around this incident continue to evolve, the burden of discernment lies with the public. Sensationalism thrives in silence. But critical inquiry, methodical, skeptical, and unrelenting, can dismantle illusion. And if this story is to become more than speculation, it must be built on confirmation, not conjecture. Until then, we offer not conclusions, but cautions. Remain vigilant. Challenge everything. Believe nothing without evidence. Ask, whose truth is this? And at what cost does it come? Because in an age of media where every silence is suspect and every whisper becomes news, the most dangerous deception is not what we are told, but what we choose to believe.